last act of a zero, Charles.
Jason, it's good to be inside.
It is. We're a little bit audio processed today to make sure that we don't boil in this New York City summer heat. I hope people don't. Probably wouldn't have noticed if I didn't say anything, but if anyone's like, why does it sound like they're transmitting from a submarine?
The SS Goodman. So that's actually, right. This is a title that you came up with sort of pitching an audible. We had another one that we were going to use, and this is a brilliant title, but actually for a reason you may not yet appreciate, which is, can you pull up the front page of the New York Times?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
I think so.
Last act of a zero, and here you're thinking that it's Biden, but I would argue that this is the last act of zero Obama.
What did Obama do?
Well, is this the front page today? It's Sunday the 7th. Let's see. Where's the front right page?
Maybe the website's not the same as the actual.
Yeah, there's a story. It's a bombshell story. All right, if we can't get it here, we can go to Zero Hedge. It's the first story in Zero Hedge. And it's really, I mean, the more I think about this story, the more my blood boils. Bombshell New York Times expose. This is a story that is so outrageous, and I noticed it online, but in my building, a number of people still, it's quite a few apartments in the building, I think only about 2 people subscribe to the New York Times anymore, and they often just throw the damn paper out on this, outside the building, and I feel bad. I'm up early, I take the papers and put them back in so they're not stolen. This is on the front right column of the printed paper that was distributed, okay? And what it says is that there is a mercenary force led by an American that has been caught numerous times shooting Russian soldiers in the act of surrendering in violation of the Geneva Convention on so many different levels. And here we have a festering carbuncle of a boob in our president, our resident in the White House, going around yapping with all the circus clowns in the mainstream media about, we've got to protect our democracy. We've got to protect our democracy. And what we've been doing, really in an effort that began under Clinton to push eastward against the former Soviet Union and Central Bloc, has been going on now for 32 years. We have something that accelerated in 2014 under Obama, under John Kerry, pushing back against Putin, the evil Putin, to basically wage an undeclared war by proxy, and now involving mercenaries, American mercenaries, who are over there in Ukraine doing more to damage the reputation of the United States than any president, I would argue. Even W. Bush wasn't quite this bad. I mean, he was bad. I mean, in hindsight, what do we get out of Iraq and what do we get out of the Afghanistan adventure? Not much, except a lot of spilt blood and tears and treasure. But in the case of this story in the New York Times, let's remember how we got to the place we're in. We have, I don't know how familiar you are with this, Jason, maybe more so than I am. Vladimir Zelensky is the former elected leader of Ukraine who got into that position as the star of a television show which imagined somebody becoming the leader of a country. And presto changeo, he became leader of the country. And the corrupt people behind that show and behind Zelensky have taken how many tens of billions of dollars out of the money that was sent towards Ukraine, in theory, to fight this conflict. This has never been a declared war.
Yeah.
And now we find out that they're actually, the New York Times found this. They sent people over there and they cross-checked this, and they are now saying, with whatever is left of their journalistic credibility, they are alleging that this happened. Now, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe the Times got it wrong. It sure seems credible to me. And if you're a peacenik, if you're Bernie Sanders, and these various and sundry progressives who are out there protesting all the wars we're involved, how can you sit there and say this is a great idea to keep Joe Biden in the residency, in the campaign, not being impeached, not being convicted, not being sent to Gitmo for this? This is outrageous behavior. Forgetting about all the missteps and failures and the corruption of the Biden family itself. This is if we didn't have the Wicked Witch of the West melting down before our eyes in terms of the Democratic Party and all the people behind it, the Uniparty, if we didn't have that going on, this story on the front right page of front right column of the New York Times would have, every major talk show should be buzzing about. This is far worse than Abu Ghraib. I mean, this is disgusting. A soldier is surrendering, and I mean that's an essential tenet of the Geneva Convention,
right?
Not a peripheral one. And we are allowing and condoning Americans and an American-led force shooting surrendering soldiers first in the gut and then in the head.
Yeah, it's a terrible article. There's a lot of people who just think that because war involves death and killing somebody is murder, that if you're involved in a war, oh, that's a war crime. But here, when somebody is surrendering and you shoot them,
repeatedly,
that is an actual crime.
Right, yeah, and many, it's not just the one guy who was shot first in the trunk and then in the head, but there are other people, and we don't yet know how many other people have been succumbed to this. And why the fuck are there American mercenaries?
And Greek, they said as well.
His name is Zeus, yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy story.
Yeah.
So the Audible was called because you discovered that we were going to use, that we had done.
Yeah.
But did we actually do it in 2020?
Yeah.
You said 4 years ago? So it's actually 4.5 years ago?
It was called because we put she on there. What we were going to do today was going to be the Lost Emperor, because Joe, he was like, I'm busy running the world, man. It's like, hey, listen, stupid, you can barely run your mouth. But it's like the fact that he thinks that and would say that, and that, like, I run the world, he's delusional in addition to being demented.
Yeah, and another thing that's going to happen in a couple of hours, I mean, as I understand the way the presidency is supposed to work, there are quite a few handlers. We learned that on Joe Biden's staff alone, there are over 500 staffers, which is ridiculous. But we learned, I've learned in observing these big corporations and big operations in government, there typically are a bunch of minders who say, okay, it's a Sunday, end of the 4th of July weekend, the president could just take time off, but if he's going to do anything, here's option A, here's option B, here's option C. These morons who are around the moron decided that of all things, Joe Biden should go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at 5 p.m. for an ice cream social. Let's think about crazy. That. Okay, you've got lunch, typically, is over, let's say, at 1:30. Oh, there you go. Oh, with Gordon Chang, wow.
But it's been deleted October 1st, 2020.
11th, it says.
October 11th, 2020. So that should be on Odyssey. Let me check for that.
It's been deleted. Why?
Because we have a band of idiots led by George's brother who do nothing but try to destroy my social media channels, prevent me from earning money, try to stop people from signing up for odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. The best way to sponsor the show, it's only $3 a month. People can also go to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Let's actually look for the actual title. Maybe it is on Odyssey. I don't know. Anyway, you were saying, Charles.
So of all things, this guy is going to go, this doofus is going to go with his team of doofuses to Harrisburg, which is it's the capital of Pennsylvania, so it's an important swing state, but at 5 p.m. an ice cream social. Now, the way I was raised, ice cream was a treat. It wasn't, you didn't get it for every day, dessert at lunch and dessert at dinner. It was a special treat. That this moron would think he deserves ice cream before dinner on the heels of a performance where he is single-handedly, it used to be he was, average Joe, I don't own any stocks or bonds, I'm not like Trump, I don't make money off public service. There we go. And here's this guy who is displaying the impulses of a tyrant, dictator. Yeah. Only God Himself, the Almighty God, can remove him. Joe, wait a minute.
By the way, Charles, that might be happening any minute.
Exactly.
I was like, wow, pretty bold, tempting fate like that. I thought lightning would strike him at that moment, and Stupidopolis would just sit there.
Right. But an ice cream social at 5?
It's good if he is 5. 5-year-old
Right.
ice cream social makes sense on 4th of July, but yeah, he's the president. The notion that honestly, that's a little silly that he would go to an ice cream social.
In Pennsylvania. I mean, like he's in somewhere. He's either in D.C. or Delaware. I mean, why go? And let's think about it. The sustainable president, right? Mr. Green New Deal, Mr. all this kind of stuff. You're going to take an entourage. How are you going to get from wherever you are to Harrisburg? Are you going to drive? In which case, that's probably not using electric cars. And even if it were using electric cars, it's not necessarily good for the environment. So why are you going to waste your time doing this bullshit? Shouldn't you, if you were a serious person, which you're not, shouldn't you be back at, remember Jimmy Carter, which was, I wouldn't say this was a correct decision, but when he had the hostages in Iran, he refused to leave the White House. Here's a guy for over a year, right? And
well, good. He was at least working on it, trying.
In theory,
failed.
Because everything.
But you know what? We don't really know who tried to sabotage Jimmy Carter on that, and I bet you the CIA.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
George Bush was running it.
1976. Yeah, but that incident was in 1979.
Wait a second, though. But George Bush,
he was only brief. It was 75, I think. We could look into it, but the point is that this is so far away from where he should be right now. He should be back in the White House or in one of the mansions in Delaware with only his closest advisors, and he should have people in the room who are thinking through the interests, first of the Democratic Party, and second of, first of the United States of America, second of the Democratic Party, and lastly, himself. Instead, this is a spoiled prick bastard, greedy, corrupt fucker with his wife and his idiot son, the smartest man that he knows. The gravy train is over, and they're fighting like hell. No conflict of interest in that room. They're fighting like, Dad, we got to keep this up, man. The Mr. 10%, Mr. Big Guy. That's what this is all about. When the Democratic Party, now I'm going to reveal something here that, deep in my history, there are lurking Democrats and interesting Democrats who were involved in the formation, actually, of the Democrat Party in California.
From your family?
Sorry?
From your family?
Well, it might have, go back that far, and you've got a lot of family members, yes. And so I don't really give a shit about either party. But at this stage, what this man has done, a beneficiary of the largesse of the Democratic Party, what this idiot has done in 2 short weeks is do far more damage to the Democratic Party than Donald Trump has done in the 2016 election or during his presidency. I mean, how can you look at the Democratic Party and say, these people have contingency plans, they're big adults, they think things through properly, they've considered every, as my Finnish friend used to say, scenario. What's this?
I'm trying to not distract you.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. Anyway.
This is Google Gemini, and I'm asking you, oh, look at that, Charles. Woo!
Yeah, if you just punch in...
Well, wait a minute, though.
H.W. Bush, not W. Bush.
Sorry. Right, exactly. Can't help you with responses on elections and political figures right now. Doesn't matter. Okay, that was a mistake for sure. But I asked Google Gemini, when was George W. Bush CIA director? This is just a matter of fact. And it says, I can't help you with responses on elections and political figures right now. I'm trained to be as accurate as possible. But this is the future, where you say, computer, what's the weather today? Oh, for you, Jason, it's raining. Stay home.
Yeah. Well, might the CIA have something to do with Google?
I think yes.
Yeah.
But wait a minute.
But I'm pretty sure it was 75, but I could be wrong.
I think it was.
It's
amazing.
Just punch in George H.W. Bush into Wikipedia, and you'll get it.
This is an answer that I think the internet should be able to give us right away without all this bullshit.
January 30th, 76.
Okay, so my point is, I think there are certain people who get into the CIA, like this asshole, and possibly, who's the fat guy that got thin? Pompeo, where he's like, okay, I don't need to be here for a long time. Here's the plan. I'm going to leave here. Wait, look, he exits January 20th, 1977. Isn't that
just
Inauguration Day?
It is.
For Carter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he leaves the CIA in a very Adam Sharp-like way, to get out into the field and start doing his work. So what is
Where
George?
was he going to go work?
Where? Tell me.
Dillon Reed.
H.W. Bush in 1977.
He
So
didn't,
what happened?
He didn't go for whatever reason, but it was.
He's like, this company's too CIA for me. But seriously, though, he leaves January. This is interesting. And this is interesting for us to look at, Charles. This is when they said, hey, that guy can't be president. We need to activate one of our top people. GHWB, you're out in the field. What did he go to do in January?
Well, look into his
1977?
Wikipedia. We'll be able to tell you. I forget exactly. I don't.
But doesn't this seem like their methodology?
If let's just look into. If you go, there's a section. Early life, forget that. World War II, forget that. Marriage, college, business career, no. Early political career, no.
Nixon and Ford.
Okay, here we go. Chairman of the Republican National Committee. Wow, I didn't realize that in 72. Okay, then
Head of
China,
the U.S. liaison
CIA.
office in China.
There we go. Okay.
Something's
He considered
happening
Bush
here.
just stops.
Yeah, they don't want you to know what he was doing
No,
in
no,
1970.
it was something. I forget what it was exactly, but he was. Just see. Yeah, that's very interesting.
And isn't it? I love it when I see things that I've never thought about before, and it takes us on a whole lovely ride. I guarantee George H.W. Bush sabotaged Jimmy Carter's presidency and did everything to make him look stupid and to fail and to cause Americans to die in Iran so that he could set it up so that their idiot puppet. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend people who like Ronald Reagan, but Ronald Reagan was an actor, was a guy who looked good in a suit. He might have been a very nice man, smart, unconventional thinking in terms of let's invite Gorbachev to dinner because he acts like a regular guy, not a sinister asshole who runs the CIA. But this scumbag, I allege, plotted to destroy the Carter presidency, to control the Reagan presidency, and he is the modern architect of chaos around the world.
Well, I think perhaps also, I mean, remember he was in the liaison office in China. He was doing the bidding of, I would argue, the Rockefellers and people like the Rockefellers in ushering in the New World Order. And that was his what. I think that was his mission, his idea, his goal. And he wrote a book about it, actually. I've been trying to get this book. It's tough as hell to get, with Brent Scowcroft.
What's it called?
Well, if you punch in Brent Scowcroft and George H.W. Bush into Google and book, you'll get it.
Scowcroft?
Scowcroft. And he was on the board of Purelator, which was controlled by, I met with him, actually, which was controlled by the Brady family. Yeah, here it is. A World Transformed.
Is that it?
That's it, yeah. I've been trying to buy it. Look at this. Used $700.
This says $6.
Here, $700.
Whoa, don't get that one.
I won't.
Here's $1.30. Much better deal. Now
Yeah,
here,
but what does it say?
you get it for $7 on Kindle.
I don't like Kindle. I like hard copy.
$15.98.
What's
it going to take to put you into this book today, John?
Yeah, I wanted it.
I
wanted to go into the Strand, where I like to go in the Strand, get the book off the shelf, take it home. Mission accomplished.
Huh.
We have a see this?
Yeah, this is important stuff right here.
Yeah, it is. That's why I want the book. Most important book written about the end of the Cold War.
See, this is it. These assholes, they staged all of this, and now it's like one of these this is like a side effect coming back to, when you're young and you have some kind of sports industry, and then years later in your life, they're like, oh, now you need surgery. That's what's happening now. They thought they fixed it or it was going to be okay, but they made it so much worse.
Right. Well, I was actually, what was I doing? I bought a bunch of books, actually, about the Bushes over in the last several days to fill in my thinking about, as I'm writing what I'm writing, just to check my recollection with what they actually say in the book they were doing, whether that's true or not. And if you think about what happened after World War II, a bunch of people from Skull and Bones at Yale got involved in the project to assassinate people who hadn't been dealt with in World War II.
Who exactly were they trying to assassinate?
People in World War II that were not killed yet.
Or what people?
Like bad people. So
who says they're bad?
Because they do.
Yeah, right. Who they think is bad and who I think is bad might be two different people.
Right. And there were, forget the guy's name now, but the immediate predecessor to the CIA.
OSS.
OSS, yeah, the OSS. So you're talking about George Bush, you're talking about Dino Pianzio, you're talking about William Buckley, and you're talking about Van Galbraith. Now, Van Galbraith and Dino Pianzio both worked at Dillon Reed when I was there. So I had, less exposure to Van, but a lot of exposure to Dino, talking about what he actually did after World War II in the CIA. And these are people who, quote from The Greatest Generation, were running around the world saying, okay, I'm going to pick winner and loser in this country and that country and another country and yet another country. And that got us into a lot of different messes all over the world. Get to your Frank Church Committee by 1975. And when did the project inside the United States start to pick winners and losers at the highest levels of the country? Did it start, for example, with Kennedy? Did it start before Kennedy?
Look at this. Did you know that the Russell Trust Association is the business name of Skull and Bones Society? Yeah. Incorporated in 1856.
That's not a big secret.
But it's not widely known. I've never heard that before.
I know. And look at this. It only has an endowment of $17 million that's known. I mean, that's really not a lot of money.
This is all front-facing stuff to hide what it actually has and what it actually does and what its actual purpose is. But you see, the other thing is all this weird symbology and just the very fact that they have this tomb. This is all very reminiscent of Masonry and some of these, old pagan secret societies along the lines of what the Nazis were trying to capture during World War II.
Right.
I think that this is carrying on a lot of the traditions of when I say that I think it's the same group that created Nazism and Zionism, these are the guys, not necessarily exactly Skull and Bones, but this is what I'm saying. They want to sit on top here while Palestinians and Jews fight, while Nazis and Zionists fight, while whoever. And then when that mess is over, they're going to come in and scoop up all the stuff.
Well, but so when we think about the mess that is the White House, this long succession now, I would disagree with you on Reagan because I think that, yes, he was an actor. Yes, he was, let's say, a mediocre actor, but he also was, he had more business experience, interesting and different business experience. As the lead spokesperson for GE when it was a real company.
Really?
Yes. And,
I didn't know that.
And he was
amazing.
No, but when it was a serious company, it was not to fuck up.
I don't think it was ever a serious company.
Yeah, it really was.
It was always controlled by the CIA. They had GE people going with the team that captured all the VX rocket stuff so that General Electric could get the jet engine technology from the Nazis.
That's in the 40s or 50s. But my point is in the 80s, the late 80s and early 90s, very early 90s, GE was a very strong company, extremely strong company. And in the period where Reagan was one of the company spokesperson, it was a strong company. I think he was head of the Screen Actors Guild. And before that, he was governor of California for 2 terms. So it's not like he had no political...
But wasn't he much more popular than George H.W. Bush?
George H.W. Bush, right, a distant relative, was a piece of shit. I mean, he was a very popular guy at Yale, and he was a great athlete.
Let me take you on a line of questioning here, because who else do we know that is a fucking piece of shit that couldn't have been elected president if not for worming his way in there and then immediately trying to assassinate the guy? Oh, wait a minute, that's the exact same plan that H.W. Bush had. I mean, I'm sorry to be contradicting you, Charles, but there is no way I will ever be convinced that Ronald Reagan wasn't selected by the team that wanted to kill him and take over his presidency, and it failed.
Well, Reagan, I don't know. Reagan, if I remember actually in my youth at college thinking that Ronald Reagan was a bozo, And he was, to the Northeastern crowd, Ronald Reagan was a deeply unpopular, too conservative candidate and thought to be not sophisticated enough, et cetera. And he nearly won the nomination in 76. It came very, very close, but he didn't win. He nearly ended his national political career after that fight. But he got his going from losing in 76, the nomination, to being the nominee 4 years later was a remarkable turn of events. Not dissimilar from Trump, quote, losing in 2020 and now maybe kicking the shit out of whoever they put in in 2024. But just stay with me for a second.
We got to do this in the First Amendment form if we can, because we're at the end of our time here. People are going to be able to join us on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I really do recommend odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. It's the most economical way for people to join. You can also get on there for free and access the largest library of legacy content. And I want to thank everybody who is sponsoring the show. We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We've got to talk about this, Charles, because I remember seeing this on TV, being a very little kid, and my mother, I remember walking into the kitchen, and this was on the television, my mother all tense about it. But I know a lot more about it now than I did when I was a little kid. It's the same team that tried to that succeeded in assassinating Kennedy, and they're using the same playbook. So we'll talk about that more in the First Amendment form. Stay with us, everybody. Yeah, I liked Reagan as well. I'm not disparaging Reagan. I'm just trying to point out the pattern of
disparage if you want.
Let's install someone who's not actually in control, and then we'll control his presidency or kill him and take it.
Right.